Good day and welcome to the Travel with Us a While podcast. I'm very excited today because my guest is Annette Blakey. We used to work together many years ago and she travels a lot and I'm here to share with her story. Annette, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm really interested if you wouldn't mind to share your bike riding trips in Europe. I find them fascinating.
Okay. Well, they go back a little while. Firstly, I'll just start with how we got into them.
Yes, that would be good.
Ian and I have always been bushwalkers and campers, and we've probably walked most of Tassie and camped a lot. Anyway, in the year 2000, we went to the UK to visit Ian's uncle and aunt. They live on the borders of UK and Scotland. Funnily enough, that's outside their house was welcome to England, but their house was actually in Scotland, so they were right on the borders. Ian's uncle was loved cycling, and in the 50s and 60s was very common for the English to get on their bikes and they ride to the YMCAs and they camp. And he was still riding bikes in his late 60s.
Excellent.
And so we came back from that going, oh, that's something we could do. We could cycle tour. That sounds like fun. So when we got back to Tasmania, we went out and bought bikes. Now, even though that's only year 2000, it's not really that long ago. You really couldn't get any touring bikes much here in Australia compared to Europe and the
Yes.
UK. So we bought a couple of reasonably priced just mountain bikes, which were probably more suited to Tasmanian conditions. So we went and bought those. We bought all the gear. We had all the camping gear, the tents and, the cooking stuff because we're bushwalkers. Bought some panniers and thought, this is good. So we started doing bike trips in Tassie, mainly Northwest Coast, just to make sure everything was, all together and we could actually do it. Pretty quick learning curve, it was really good, and we did a lot of the roads up through near Cradle and that, and we were actually quite respected by the drivers because I think at the end of the day, when you're on a bike with fully load panniers, you're actually quite wide, so cars really
Yes.
had to give way to us properly, so that was pretty good. Anyway, so we did quite a few trips around Tassie, just packed up for the weekend or extended weekends and just rode and found campsites around. And so we'd probably average between, 50 to 100K a day.
Wow.
Being a big, big day. Yeah, usually 50, 60. I'd had enough by then. We always like to get early to a campsite to set up. And if we're in walking distance to a town, of course, we've got to go have the beer at the local.
Absolutely essential.
That's an essential. So we got that and I thought, we want to go back and do the UK. Now, in those days, the UK had an organisation called Sustrans, standing for Sustainable Transport.
Right?
And they built all the cycle paths, basically, in the UK. They bought up the old railway lines and things like that and turned them into cycle paths. And at that stage, in those years, there was about 5,000 miles of dedicated bike routes, and you could buy the maps, and it was mainly off-road. Otherwise, you'd pay BC roads, sometimes through private properties on big estates you could ride through. So you buy the maps and you can get yourself from one end of the UK to the other pretty much off-road, and
Oh,
it was all
fabulous.
mapped, and these magnificent signposts at places. So we thought we'd do that. So we packed up our bikes. It took me about 6 months to plan it. In those days, we didn't have smartphones, so it was all done by paper.
Yes.
So I ordered all the maps, which I still have from the UK,
How lovely.
plotted all our way all around. So we were going to fly into Edinburgh, basically circumnavigate the UK right down to south, Devon, Cornwall, then back up and then across and circumnavigated Ireland. So got it all together, did the research. In those days, had to just research on the big machine at home. You didn't really have laptops that
No,
much,
no.
or you didn't have iPads, and look at where the campsites were and what distances and what was available to camp, because we took all of our camping gear as well. So it was fully loaded panniers again. So got all that mapped out and had it all as to what we're going to do. And so it was basically, once again, 50, 60 kilometres a day, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on the distance between campsites and how many pubs are in between. I must admit, there wasn't many a day at lunchtime you'd come across this little lonely pub in the middle of nowhere where you stop, have a few beers, and then realised you've had too much to drink and you've still got 50 miles to ride. That was very common, but we did it. Anyway, so we're playing this, so got it all sorted, packed up, took our bikes. We didn't really know how we would go getting luggage-wise, taken 2 bikes and all the gear across the UK. We were flying with, who did we fly with? It was one of the Qantas affiliates anyway. Can't remember now. Anyway, which was fine. So we had the big Qantas bike boxes which you could get, and as long as they were under 30 kilos, they went free.
Fantastic.
Anything, they still owned it, so anything under 30 kilos is the maximum. So our bikes and all our gear fitted in the bike.
So you could put in those boxes, you could put your panniers and camping gear. How
Yep.
fantastic.
Yeah, so as long it wasn't any more than 30 kilos, so which they were both 30 kilos. So off they went, and we actually didn't see our bike boxes because we went through via Hong Kong, through to London to Edinburgh. We didn't see our bikes until we got to Edinburgh. And we're just hoping the hell they got there in one piece. But we did actually see them when we were in Heathrow changing planes to go to Edinburgh. We actually saw them loading them in the planes. So thank God, at least they're in the UK. And you had to put big signs up on it. So
This
they
way
stood
up.
this way up, and they were.
Oh, that's important.
And they had proper carry on each side, and 2 men were actually lifting them, and they actually placed them gently on the. And I'm looking and going, oh wow, need to take a photo of that because I'm sure not all airports. Anyway, so we got to Edinburgh. Bikes got there safely, but then we've got to put everything together. The airline made us let that air out of our tyres.
Oh goodness.
We'd had packed it all in Launceston, and when we got to Melbourne, they said, they're fully pumped. And go, well, yeah. And they go, well, no, you've got to. So we had to unpack all our boxes.
My goodness.
And so when we got to Edinburgh, I'm going, well, we've got to pump all this and put all our gear together and that. So here we are in the car park at Edinburgh Airport, unpacking these bloody great bike boxes, putting everything in on our bike, pumping our tyres. We had a little audience starting to gather.
Did they offer to help?
No, they just stood there taking photos and things, and we're going, okay. And they're going, where are you going? Oh, you're Australian. I said, oh, we're just cycling, going to cycle around the UK. I'm going to pop across to Ireland. And it's like, oh, how long are you on your bikes for? Oh, about 4 months. What? Okay, so we did that. Anyway, eventually, and then we're going, we've got these great big bike boxes. What do we do with these?
That was my next question.
Because we weren't flying home from Edinburgh, we were flying home from Dublin. So we couldn't leave them anywhere. And we went back in and said, where are we going to leave? And Blake said, oh, just around a corner, you'll see this other trash. Just put them there. So
oh, what a pity.
Yeah. Anyway, so it finally got there. Everything's fine. Got on our bikes. In those days, there wasn't a bike path or a path from the airport through to Edinburgh City.
Oh my goodness! So you were riding with these panniers through all that traffic.
There were bits and pieces where there was a bit of bike path, but that's okay. Got on to where we can, but in the meantime, it wasn't that busy. It's different now.
I bet.
But I mean, even though it was only 25 years ago, so we got on the bikes, we rode in, no real dramas at all. Then we got into the middle of Edinburgh. And we're riding up the main street.
Yes,
now, the main street in Edinburgh has got trams on it. It didn't then. They were about to start talking about. But it was only for buses and buses up the main street, but cyclists were allowed. So it was just amazing. Riding up the centre of Edinburgh, I've forgotten what the main street's called now, just us and the buses. That was brilliant.
That would be amazing.
It was. It was absolutely a brilliant start. Anyway, we were staying in a bed and breakfast. There weren't Airbnbs back then. We actually stayed in right through Portobello where the beach was.
Oh, yes.
So we got through there okay and found our bed and breakfast. I was going to say Airbnb, but there's no such things then. And it was fine. It was just brilliant. So we had a few days in Edinburgh to make sure all our gear was ready, our bikes were ready. Food, we went shopping and got our food because we're camping everywhere we went. Now, because Ian's uncle and aunt were on the borders, that was basically our next trip. The next couple of days is to get down to them. No dramas. Traffic was great. Just took the back roads. Didn't do that many Ks a day. A scenery awesome. Taking in that fresh air and just spectacular.
Absolutely stunning.
It was. And then we got to the borders and we stayed with them for a couple of days. Which was great. We went cycling with Ian's uncle.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, it was lovely. So then we just plotted. Our next bit was what we were going to do is what they call the sea to sea. So it was from the west coast over to the east coast, though we started a little bit more in the middle because coming down from the borders.
Yes.
So we went and did that. That was some of the steepest bits to do, but spectacular. And we stopped one day at this pub for lunch. as you do. You got to stop the pub for
The
lunch.
person, you got to support the local.
Well, we did. Everywhere we went, we support the locals. We had to try the beer and support the locals.
Yes.
Anyway, we caught up with, at the pub, a group of army guys that were out on a training ride, part of their
Yes?
fitness. They were on
Oh,
mountain bikes.
oh, goodness.
So we're out, we'd finished, had lunch and we'd had a few beers and we just left our bikes, even though our panniers were locked on and we just locked our bikes. But, in those days, people just didn't touch things
Yeah.
and it was fine. Our bikes and all our gear was quite a bit of money. But, we just had to trust the people around. That was fine. So we went out to the car park and got back on our bikes and they were all heading off as well. And so they were going kind of the same route as us across the Pennines. Not quite the same, but the first bit was. So Ian and I just plogged on in a low gear because it was starting to climb and just spectacular. All the old towns and the minings and
The
all
houses
that.
and it's amazing, isn't it?
It is. And interestingly, at one of the places we were staying across there must have been I don't know, Air Force base or somewhere, because we'd be in this middle of nowhere, hardly any trees. It was just up the top. And next minute, a fighter plane went across right low. It was just amazing. Anyway, so there must have been a base somewhere. Anyway, 'cause these army guys were there. Anyway, they couldn't keep up with us. And we're going, aren't they supposed to be fit? And this one eventually rides up. She goes, where are you guys going? I said, we're just going across doing the sea to sea. And so, and you've got that much gear? I said, we're struggling to keep up with you. And they were on standard mountain bikes. I didn't think we were that fit. But anyway, so we did that. That was fine. Just spectacular. Everywhere we stayed, we had people invite us to camp in their
Oh,
backyards.
lovely.
Went to a couple of pubs and we got a few weird kind of looks, but it didn't matter. We just kind of sat down and I can remember we were still not doing the sea to sea. The place that we wanted to stay wasn't available. So somebody said, well, you can come and camp at our place.
Oh,
So we
nice.
did. We just got that all the time. It's
Oh,
just,
lovely.
yeah.
Locals, if you treat them with respect and kindness, they double it back to you always, anywhere in the world. I've seen this.
They
Yes.
do. And a lot of places where there was supposed to be a campsite and there wasn't, it's either ride another 50 miles on to the next
Oh,
campsite.
goodness.
Now, England doesn't have wild camping. Scotland does. So we really had to find somewhere. And especially for safety and with the bikes and that. But we camped in the back of pubs a lot
Yes.
as well. I suppose people do today with their RVs. And the condition was you come into the pub for tea.
Yes, so that's
Well, that wasn't a
easy.
problem. And how many beers later? We camped in paddocks with cows. We got up in the morning and there was a cow patty right like that. So anyway, cycling along, weather was brilliant every day. We must have had the weather gods with us.
I think so. Goodness.
Coming down the east coast, so a big town called Kings Lynn.
Yes, not been there.
Yeah. Now, all the roads going into these old towns are quite narrow, even though they're fairly busy and cobblestone.
Quite narrow is polite. They're very narrow.
Yes, and for the amount of traffic. Anyway, Ian and I were going into Kings Lynn to find out where the nearest camping was. We'd stayed at some absolutely amazing camping on the way down, but we didn't know anywhere around this area. What we thought was available obviously wasn't there anymore. So we had to go into Kings Lynn, and you couldn't get on your phone or your iPad or whatever. You had to go into the tourist information. So we're going into the centre of town. We found out where that was. Now we're riding in this big busy street along this cobblestone, trying to, I was over his heart. And next minute I got hit from behind. What? This woman obviously didn't realise how wide bikes are with the panniers on.
Yes.
Anyway, she hit me. Now, the curb was quite high, being an old cobblestone. And I could feel the hit and thought, shit, I'm really going to go over here. I don't want to go into front of the cars. So I tried to lift my bike up over, but it was too high. So I came crashing down.
Oh, wow.
I landed on my elbow. I finally got up and I was in a little bit of pain, but first thing I looked at my bike. My bike was with all the gear was, a lot of money worth. And I thought, I hope there's something wrong with my bike. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, where I had the accident, though, knocked off, was outside a bikies club. So,
wow.
And next minute, these men with their bikie gear on, showing, are you right? Anyway, I just let rip at this woman like they were stunned. These words were coming out of my mouth because she just carried on. And I turned around and he said, are you with somebody? I said, yeah. I said, where is he? Oh, I don't know. Ian didn't see it.
Yeah, because he was in the front.
He was in the front. So next minute, there's a big bike. He goes, running down. Hey, mate, he goes. He goes, what? Hey, your missus just fell off a bike. Okay. So back he comes. Back he comes. Anyway, so we're out and they took us in and gave us a drink and checked over the bike. Bikes are fine.
Oh,
I
thank
kind of felt all right, but I was really sore in the
Yes.
elbow. And after I calmed down and stopped swearing, I'm sure they were actually shocked that somebody could get
Those words.
anyway, so they were lovely and they couldn't do enough for us.
How fabulous.
And so I guess it wasn't the last time that the bikies actually assisted with us with some stuff as well. Anyway, so we got into town, we got to the tourist bureau and they said, oh, your campground one is back the way you came.
Oh, no.
I'm going, I don't know if I can ride because I'd lost the use
Oh,
of my left. Now,
gosh.
you can't brake,
No.
can't change gears. I could hold on to the bar just like that.
Yes.
So anyway, I thought, yeah, God, trust me. So I took some painkillers, which luckily I had some. We don't take drugs as such, but you always carry something like that. Anyway, we managed to get back down to the caravan park. Now it was a private caravan park on somebody's farm, no children allowed. Now, a lot of those days, a lot of the private, smaller caravan parks, private ones, didn't allow children in. Brilliant. So it was all the English grey nomads going all their little caravans. And so we rocked in there and, yep, sure, we can stay there. And you could walk back into Kingsland on the canal. So it was quite close. Yeah, so we stayed there. The owners of the farm weren't there, but there was a couple that camped there every year that were managing it. So they kind of took us under our wing and we set up tent and blah, blah, blah. And he actually took me to the hospital the next morning, the manager there, and sat around and waited.
Oh, lovely.
And I got into an x-ray fairly quick and got back out and sitting there waiting and this nurse comes out. Where's the Australian girl? The one with the broken elbow. God. And I just went, my God, I've broken my elbow. Okay, right, what are we going to do? And I was just thinking, we'd only been riding for 3 weeks and we still had, 3 months to go. What the hell are we going to do? Anyway, she said, oh, we can get you an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon in 3 days' time. I said, what? Really? She goes, yeah, see what you can do about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, I had to show my Australian passport because we have reciprocal medical over there. That was fine. So it cost me nothing.
Oh, fabulous.
Which was good. Well, it's Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kings Lynn. So it's the NHS hospital, which was fine. So he took me back, the manager, to the campground. Of course, we sat around and I go, well, what are we going to do? We can't do anything at the moment. We're kind of stuck. And so he said, oh, let's just wait to see what the orthopedic surgeon says. So we went to him, got in. He said, yeah, you've broken it. He said, but I can't do anything for you because it's cracked up through here.
Yeah.
He said, but that's not your problem. It's that you've ripped your tendons off the...
That's why I wondered why your hand
that's why I couldn't do it. He said, it's not your break. It's because you've ripped everything off it. So he said, put this bandage on. It was just one of those tubes. He said, in 2 weeks' time, you'll have enough movement that you can ride your bike again.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm going, yeah, right. Yeah. And it was out here. It was hugely swollen. This here, I mean, it's still lumpy to this day. And it was right out here and I couldn't do anything. He said, put that badge, put it in a sling whenever you can. Just let it rest and take some anti-inflammatories and blah, blah, blah. So the lovely manager took us back home again. He brought me back in again. And lo and behold, about a mile down the road was an Avis rent-a-car.
Goodness, how handy.
It was. So Ian goes, shall I look at going renting a car? I said, okay. So he went toddling off on his bike around to Avis. Next minute, he comes back in a brand new Freelander.
Wow.
Had done only 19 miles.
My goodness, literally brand new.
It was literally brand new. So Freelander is probably a smaller SUV, one of the first lots around. So it was fully diesel, cost bugger all to run. He said, I've hired it for 2 weeks. I said, okay. Fine. So he packed up our bikes. We went and bought some big plastic sheets because with grease and everything.
You don't it on the vehicle, especially a new one.
Especially a new one. And so we packed everything off the bikes and packed them in. The boot was really small in these, but we got everything in. So we packed them there. So what we did then, we basically followed the route through middle of the UK, what we were going to ride.
Oh, yes.
So I took my map and we basically did the same thing.
Nice,
so we didn't, because we had the car, that didn't mean we did, hundreds of kilometres a day. We did the same.
Yes.
We basically did the same routes, perhaps a bit more back roading,
Yes.
stayed at the same spots and did the bits that we were going to ride anyway. In some ways, it was really good because we were going through Oxford and Cambridge,
Yes.
and it's really, really busy, and there was no sustenance routes through there. We just had to make our way through back roads. Anyway, they said we could drop the car off at Bath.
Lovely, and Bath.
Yeah, so we thought, because it was only going to take us a couple of days to do this bit on bike anyway. So we were through the central bit. It took a bit longer. So what are we going to do now? So we went and did Wales for 2 weeks. So we went all
Wales.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it was beautiful. We went through the national parks and we camped and then we did some walks and we did everything we could. We went up, what's the mountain up in northern?
I'm trying to think of it. I'm here and I can see the goats.
The train will take you up. Oh, God, it's too long ago. Anyway, so we did all that. We camped and we walked and, went to pubs and we met the locals and blah, blah, blah. We did all that. And eventually we made out after 2 weeks. We said, right, it's 2 weeks. We'll go in Bath. So we went back into Bath, dropped the car off. I had enough strength to actually brake.
Oh, fantastic.
So adjusted my brakes a bit more so it made it a bit easier. And because we only used middle change set, I didn't have to change gears that much. So that was okay. So he was right. I was able to.
Goodness, how lucky.
I was. So we put our bikes back together and then we cycled all down Devon, Cornwall. That was just amazing. We swam most days. The water was so warm.
Unbelievable.
Very hilly.
Yes, very.
Some of the slopes were like this and people were walking past us on that, that angle because it's like...
Yeah, I know that.
And then
you were riding
and
it.
we were riding
it.
Anyway, so we rode all the way around Devon and Cornwall and then we headed back up. We actually got the train from Plymouth and we went to Swansea by train so we could get the ferry across to Ireland. So we didn't have any more falls or anything. Everything was fine. We stayed in all kinds of campsites, met locals and just... You take your time when you're riding. You can stop.
I think that's what's really important is people tend to want to rush when they visit places. To do it how you did it, or like we do it, where we take our time. I really try and push that because then you actually see everything and the locals teach you the most incredible treasures that are around there.
Yeah, and you get invited. As before, we got invited in and we just, and sat around with locals and had too many beers with the locals and paid for it next day and, things like that. But anyway, that's what you do. So, so we got the train up to Swansea to get the ferry. Now, the ferry leaves at 2 a.m. in the morning. So we actually, now I can't remember whether we camped in Swansea or did we stay at a bed and breakfast? No, I think we stayed at a bed and breakfast. But we had to get up at midnight and ride in the dark to a place we've got no idea where we're going. About 20 odd Ks to where the ferry
was going.
So anyway, we did that. That was fine. It wasn't a cold. We got there. You can imagine these are big ferries. They're bigger than what the Spirits are because they mainly take big trucks. So not many passengers. So we're lined up, or we first asked, I said, where do we go? And they just looked at us, you're on bikes?
Yes.
Right. Well, you're going to have to go right at the front of the lines, and there was 5 lanes, and the trucks to get on just went back miles and miles and miles.
Gosh.
And so here's Ian and I at 2:00 in the morning. In the front, it was starting to drizzle, you can imagine it, and we're on our bikes at this boom gate. Traffic behind us was like, as I said, miles worth of traffic ready to get on this ferry. He said, right, when I open this boom gate, I'm going to give you 30 seconds head start.
Oh, God.
Before I let loose, the trucks go on first. So here's Ian and I, we're at this race, waiting for this boom, and he said, right, go. So here we are, up the thing, into the ship, on bows of the ship, we're riding on, and nobody behind us yet. We're riding on there. Right, where do we put bikes? Now I'm going to swear here. Bloody Irishman said, don't fucking care where you put your bikes. You don't pay for them, so we don't care. Well, okay, right. And he said, you tie them up there. They didn't have any bike cages or anything like that.
Oh, my God.
If we'd got the day ferry, the night ferry from Swansea, which is more a passenger, they actually had bike cages but we didn't. We went the cheaper version because with our train ticket from the Plymouth to Swansea, we got the ferry ticket as well. So anyway, we tied up our bikes. We took our panniers and that with us because the bikes
Yeah.
weren't secure. If they
No.
stole our bikes, we used to have our gear. Anyway, so it only took about 4 hours
Oh, wow.
to go across. And when we were coming across, it came into, see, memory's gone, showing age. Anyway, 6 o'clock in the morning, same to get off. We're going to give you 30 seconds to
Oh,
get
my
off.
God.
So here we are lined up again at the ferry. We're off there. And then we found this, as we were riding along, we found this little green space. We thought, we're just going to stop here because the traffic out of here is going to be horrendous for the
Yes.
next couple of hours. So we set up our little cooker and cooked breakfast and had a cuppa, and we sat there. Like 2 hours later, the last rolled off.
Good God. That's incredible.
I know, it was huge. So we could go on our merry way.
In your own time.
In our own time, which was good. Now, with the Ireland, no such thing as sustrans. You just got a map and you just rode whatever roads, and we did. So we basically followed the coast around. So we did all the peninsulas and all that. Absolutely spectacular. It was beautiful. And it was,
Yeah, islands on our list, maybe next year.
yeah, we loved it. Interestingly enough, though, because there's no bike lanes or no shoulders in any of the roads,
No.
and the roads are really tiny, they drive flat out wherever they go. So in some places, we could hear the cars coming. They weren't going to give way to us.
Goodness
Or
gracious.
if we heard them, we basically got off our bikes and chucked our bikes down.
Literally, holy cow.
Just to get off the road. Ireland was very interesting for that. Beer bottles thrown at us from the locals. We've never had that before. Ireland was really interesting. Spectacular scenery, spectacular food, just beautiful. But we had the best and the worst. We got some of the worst treatment cyclists could ever have in Ireland.
Goodness, I'm
And then
so
we had
sorry.
the best treatment. There seemed to be nothing in between. It was really quite interesting. And so we did all the tours. We went through places like Dingle and all that.
Did you go to Guinness? Drink some Guinness?
Oh, Guinness was actually closed the day that we were in Dublin. We actually did drink a lot of Guinness.
I bet you did.
In the little pubs as we went round. But it tasted like crap. Whether they didn't clean their lines properly, I don't know. These were these little pubs in these little towns.
Could be.
Don't know. Anyway, you sit on the little stools, and some of these little pubs in these little towns still had dirt floors and all kinds. It was a really good experience. So we did that. That was fine. Then we had to ride out of Dingle. Outside of Dingle to get back then onto the west coast is a really big pass. It's their steepest pass.
I think I've seen photos of it. I've not been there.
So we had to ride that to get out. Everyone thought we were mad. It was no worse. It's a lot easier than riding up our Ben Lomond or Mount Barrow. Tassie, we're hills. So you used to, didn't worry out. But we got up early in the morning. There was no traffic and we did that. Anyway, so that was fine. Beautiful when we got up the top. Magnificent views. It wasn't that hard. Don't know what they were talking about. But on the way down, it was not the hairpin bends. It was just pretty much straight down.
Oh.
I lost my brakes coming down.
Oh, my God.
And I actually jammed. So I couldn't go on, couldn't go off, nothing. So I got safely down at the bottom, and my bike all to pieces in trying to fix my brakes. He got them working enough to continue on. We're not going to make to where we're supposed to go that day. But there's this beautiful big beach in front of us. So let's go camp on the beach. So we did. And there were toilets there, which was good, but they locked them at night, which was
Strange always, I think.
okay. So that's fine. So we camped there. That was fine. It was actually quite nice. And we actually stayed the next day there. Ian actually fixed my brakes. It was fine. But I thought, it's going to be a nice day. Let's stay at the beach. Well, that day it was 40 degrees in Ireland.
Good heavens.
Anyway, so we weren't the only ones on the beach for the rest of the day. So all these Irish people were coming down and going swimming, and they were in the water. Oh, isn't it lovely swimming? And I'm going, okay, I'm a Tasmanian. I can swim in anything. I swim in Tasmanian Sea all year round. I got into this water. It was the coldest water I had ever been to in my life. And I'm going, I can't. This is freezing. Got in anyway, as you do. And there I'm going, my God, no. Anyway, I got so burnt that day, sunburnt, that on my bathers, you could see the mark for the next 2 years of where I got burnt. I'm used to Tasmanian sun, and we're pretty strong sun, but I got really burnt. Anyway, that's Ireland for you. You never know. Oh, well, so we packed up and continued on. And it was that high temperature for the next couple of days that was so hot that their roads were actually melting and that got tar
Stuck on your tyres.
And every time we stopped somewhere and we'd open, "Oh, you're Australian, you're used to that, aren't you?" I said, "Well,
Not really.
not really, but, we're going on." And so we did the rest of Ireland and eventually we made our way across country, across to Dublin to go home. No other mishaps, just most spectacular scenery, fantastic food. Yeah, I'd go back and ride it again, irrelevant.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. So we got back to Dublin and we stayed at a caravan park outside of Dublin and there was a bus stop right outside so we could just nick in and we spent 3 days cleaning our bikes because we were coming home. So it was that was, I think, we'd been gone by then just under 4 months. So we were coming home from Dublin.
Yeah,
So our bikes have to be spotless to get back into Tasmania.
absolutely they do.
So we could clean them there. It was a pressure washer. So we cleaned them. That was spotless. We got rid of our chains. They'd worn so much anyway
Yeah.
because we ended up doing just under 4,000 miles.
My golly.
So, so we cleaned up our bikes. We couldn't get bike boxes. So we actually were spending our last 3 nights in Dublin. And we got this bloke to come and pick us up in a taxi and he had a taxi van. So he was
Handy.
great. And he said, "Oh, when you're ready to go to the airport, ring me and I'll pick you up as well." He was brilliant. So that was good.
That was
good
good, yeah.
Irishman as well. Most of them were good. In fact, most of them were brilliant. But so they let us pack our bikes up in our room because we had to put them back into bike boxes. We had to go scouring around the bike shops
To try and find an old box.
to get an empty box. And of course, they're only half the size of the Qantas bike box. They're
Yes.
only about that wide.
Yeah.
Qantas was huge. So everything that we either cracked or worn came off our bikes. Our pedals came off. Our chains came off. Ian had cracked his pannier rack. So that came off. My helmet had a slight crack in it from my fall. You can't wear those. That got dumped. Other bits and pieces of the bike, which we would have had to replace. So we came back with just about frames to get it back into the bike box. That's fine, no problem. Got to the airport. Same bloke picked us up again. He was brilliant. He went and got a trolley for us, took our bike boxes in. We got there and we had to go to the large parcel box place. And the bloke said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "We're going back to Tasmania." And I said, "Do you know where that is?" And he looked at me and I said, "It's Australia, mate." He goes, "Okay." He said, "You'll be lucky if they get there in one piece."
God.
I said, "They better bloody get there in one piece." Anyway, they did. So that was our cycling tour to start.
Amazing.
And it was.
Amazing.
It was just amazing. And would you believe we only had probably 2 days of rain
Good heavens.
in the whole time we were there?
What months were you there?
We must have been there May, came back in August. I remember that. So May, June, July, August. We were over because we went over in shoulder season.
Yes.
Because it's cheaper. So, it would have been either late April or May. I can't quite remember the dates. But, so we were very lucky. And the biggest rain we had really was one day in Ireland. We had to go from Cork across, and it was their little mountain range. They called it a little mountain range. God blimey. Anyway, it just teemed down all day.
Goodness. And you rode in it?
We rode in it. It was over 100K that day, and we had to ride over this mountain range in the pouring rain. But we had full Gore-Tex. We had what they call sealskin gloves and sealskin socks. So we were completely dry.
Yeah.
And we keep coming across these groups that had no wet weather gear at all coming from Europe. And we're just going, "We're Tasmanian, mate. You've got to be prepared." So we were fine. But also getting back to Ireland, all right, we might have had a very wet day, but they actually hadn't had rain for quite a few weeks. So when we first got to Ireland, a couple of campsites we were in, you weren't allowed to flush the toilets or anything because there was no water.
No water. Oh, wow.
And because there's no water storage. So it was interesting. And then we were riding up the west coast of Ireland and we stopped for breakfast and it happened to be in the rain, about one of the only other days. And this bloke came riding up to us, goes, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "We're Tasmania." He said, "I've just ridden Tasmania." I said,
Oh, my
"What
goodness.
a coincidence."
Oh, wow.
And he was joking. He said, "I didn't see much in Tasmania." I said, "What do you mean you didn't see much?" "You got too many trees." Because Ireland doesn't have trees. They've got forests, but it's all plantation. So they've got no natural forests. So there isn't actually a lot of trees.
Yes.
And he said, "Well, he's only joking." It was Ireland. So anyway, we got back home fine. And we thought, "Oh, this is great." Going to ready to do the next one, planning that. And then Ian had a sudden cardiac arrest at the age of 37.
My goodness.
Yeah. So, he was dead when I found him.
God.
But the paramedics did bring him back. And there's only 5% chance of being alive after one if you have it at home, which he did. So we all thought that he would have a severe brain injury, but he did, and he still does to a certain degree. But he was okay. So physically, he ended up still being okay. Bit of a challenge, though, with his memory, blah, blah. I wasn't able to work, had to give up work and all that. And I thought, what do we do now? Cycling is what we do. We were at that stage when we got back. Had just ridden the Wildside mountain bike race. We were racing mountain bikes. He'd been to Canberra in a 24-hour right, and we're into it and cycle touring.
Basically, cycling was your life.
It was at that stage. We did a lot of it. We probably were cycling 400 k's a week, as well as camping and all that. We'd just go out and we'd both ride to work, and we'd go get the road bikes at night and go for rides and blah blah blah. It didn't mean after this that he wasn't allowed to ride a bike again for 6 weeks, which nearly killed him, because just before he had it, he'd just bought a brand new mountain bike that he was about to race with, like high end in those days. And it was actually in the bike shop, and we were friends of the owner, getting its first big service. And I never went and picked it up until he was allowed back on the bikes.
That was sensible.
Because he just wanted to ride it, would want to ride, even though had other bikes at home. Anyway, so when he was about to ride, I went and brought this bike home. He said, well, whose is that? And I said, it's yours. He said,
he couldn't remember.
He couldn't remember. It was like this. His face was like it was
Christmas
for a kid. It
Wow.
was. So anyway, we got back to riding, but nothing big, serious stuff. We still were doing the Ks because he was still really fit. Because it really was only 6 weeks, so you don't really lose a hell of a lot. He just had to be careful about his heart rate, and he was a bit pissed off because he wasn't allowed to do a really extreme heart rate. Well, what are we going to do? We still want to travel. We still want to do that, but I'm not taking the risk of taking tens of thousands of dollars of bikes and gears across to Europe or anywhere else if Ian could go into another cardiac arrest or something serious happen. I mean, it could happen to either of us.
For sure.
We went to New Zealand first just to see what it's like with overseas. We didn't take our bikes or anything, but we certainly did lots of walking and stuff. That was all good. So then I found online what they call bike barge.
Bike barge.
So you cycle during the day and the barge picks you up at night.
Yes. I understand.
Yeah, so we found a company who did that. And I thought, well, that's a good way. I don't have to take bikes. We don't have to keep unpacking.
Yes.
And, the cycling's pretty easy, but we don't know what's going. But we still get to cycle. You still get to see the countryside.
And the countryside, yes.
So we found this organisation, and the barges are really small. So they only took between 14 and 20 passengers.
Which is lovely.
Which is great. So we thought, I'll give this a go. So we actually flew and we started in Bruges in Belgium, and we cycled all through Belgium.
I love Belgium.
Yeah. And we stopped at every local there was. And you see this hint coming through, don't
Yes,
you?
I do. Did you see the wall of beers, 400 beers?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Sorry, you continue with your story.
Where's that?
In Brussels, I can't think of the name. This is no good. I forget. I'll remember later.
Probably, but look, anyway, we had too many
Probably
beers.
it was brute.
And that we also then cycled from Belgium all through northern France. So you went through all the Somme area and all that,
gosh.
which was just spectacular. And no tourists. We went to the little towns.
That's the best.
Yeah, there was basically only us through the countryside. And so we stopped at these little towns. A lot of the ones that were during World War One, that Australia had a lot of involvement with.
Yes.
So all through those, and it was just spectacular, and it was good. So, and we were lucky with us because it's mostly Australians on these, believe it or not. And the group that we actually had, I think, were all Australians apart from 2. So all like-minded. Probably Ian and I were probably one of the youngest then, and we would have been, I don't know, even then, early 40s. So we weren't that young. So it was really good. But there was only another one person on there who'd done a lot of cycling, because it's pretty easily cycled. It's nothing drastic. Yeah. And so the guides, there's 2 guides always with us. And, you could if the route was this way, but we had time, they took you wherever. Change it. Now, they split the groups. So serious cyclists.
Oh, that's
and then those.
Hobby
So with
cyclists.
us, there was only another bloke, Ian and I, and a guide. So we'd do a completely different route,
How fabulous.
twice as long.
Why not? If you can, why not?
Yes, so we saw a lot more and different stuff than what the other group did.
Oh, lovely.
Some days we couldn't do that, but some days there was that. Sometimes we just got the guide, said, well, let's try this way. And they've never ridden it either.
Yes.
But anyway, so that was really good. So that worked really well doing that. And of course, the chef on board. So you came back and it was an open bar at night.
So everything is there for you.
Everything
Just
is
relax
there.
afterwards.
As soon as you get in, put your bike away, clean yourself up, go up the bar, pour yourself beer. You just write it down. That was the problem at the end. But it didn't matter. It was great Belgian beer, as Belgian beer. So we did that. And we thought, well, that's a good compromise. We're still seeing stuff. It's easy. If something happens, that the guides and the bloke that owns the boat will get you wherever you need it to
Yes,
be.
it's good.
Instead of having to find a hospital if you don't speak the language. Both of the guides that time spoke about 5 different languages.
Awesome.
So if something happened, that was great. And I would recommend anybody who's not a serious cycling but likes the idea of that, it's an awesome way to do it. So that worked out really, really well. And then for that trip, we carried on and we went back to the UK and
Started cycling by yourself again.
we actually took a car for a few weeks that
Mm.
time and so we went up and visited Ian's uncle and aunt again, and we just did some places that we hadn't cycled to.
Yes.
Really missed the bike. So
Reckon.
anyway, so that all worked out. The next time we went over, cycling again, this time we did it by ourselves. We still hired bikes. We did the Danube. So we cycled through Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, Czechia, whatever it's called now, Slovakia. Is that right? Germany, Austria, Czech, and Slovakia. And we went into Poland as well. So we did the Danube cycle route.
Lovely, lovely.
But once again, we hired bikes and we went with another company, which was an English company that took our bags from hotel to hotel.
Oh, absolutely fabulous.
So during the day, the bike route itself, you can imagine along the Danube, spectacular.
Would be phenomenal.
You can make it as easy or as hard as you want. So if you wanted to go up out of the valley, you could. And we did that quite often to visit other towns and do that. And it didn't matter as long as you were back at the hotel.
At the specific time.
Well, whatever time. Your bags were there.
Yeah.
There.
You've checked in. Your bags are already there, so your room is secure.
Yeah. So everything was done. That was brilliant. So that was, we did that for nearly a month. Stopped in at Vienna, where we had to actually swap bikes because then from Vienna on to Budapest, it was a different trip, but with the same company, we had to swap bikes. Well, we were staying out of Vienna, but still easy train, whatever it is, back into Vienna. And we got drinking with the locals.
Oh, no, that's dangerous. Oh, my gosh.
And they drink, what's it called?
It's a type of vodka?
Yeah, what is it? Anyway, one of the owners of one of the big manufacturers came in because he was friends with the barman. He said, try this. And holy moly. After about half a dozen pints, we decided to have tea. Then we started on this. Anyway. Don't remember much. All I had to know is that we had to ride into Slovakia the next day, which was about 100 kilometres. Oh, my God. Penance. It was penance. We were very ill that day.
Did you learn anything from that?
No.
I was waiting for that.
We just didn't drink that type of alcohol again. Anyway, so we finished off and kept plodding along and we got to Budapest. We cycled all through the Danube Valley. That was absolutely amazing. So we did that. That was fine, like that. And then got back home again. Well, we better book another one. So there's an offshoot of the same company, one of the original barges that used to belong to the company that we first went. This lady had bought it. So we went with her company. It's called Cycle Planet, I think they're called now. And they'd just opened up their cycle barge and things.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing from Amsterdam through to just basically outside of Munich. And they just opened up. So we booked a double one. So we were actually once again on the bikes. We were there 4 weeks. And we did the same thing right through the Rhine cycle route.
Okay, it's been really lovely listening to your stories. Absolutely loved them. I'm going to wish I had a bicycle now. Not. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Annette, thank you so much for taking us along on your incredible adventures. Your story reminds us that travel isn't just about ticking destinations off a list. It's about embracing the unexpected, adapting when life throws a few curveballs, and discovering that some of the most memorable moments come from the people we meet along the way. Whether it was cycling nearly 4,000 miles through Britain and Ireland, recovering from a broken elbow, or finding new ways to keep exploring after life's challenges changed your plans. Your enthusiasm and resilience are truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. And thank you to everyone who's joined us for this episode of Travel With Us a While. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please follow the podcast, leave a review, and if your favourite platform will allow it, share it with someone who loves travel and adventure as much as you do. It really does help others to discover these wonderful stories. Until next time, remember, you don't have to travel far to discover something extraordinary. I am Bron Hogan, and wherever your next adventure takes you, travel with us a while.